in his politics, and I think from putting kids in cages in the US to arriving in the UK and creating Islamophobic rhetoric around the Mayor of London, we should be on the streets and saying this is absolutely unacceptable. The UK has a proud history of being united as a country, and we will stand in opposition to a bigot.
Unacceptable that he comes here at all, or unacceptable that the red carpet's been rolled out for him?
I think both. I think it's embarrassing to see Theresa May crawling towards Trump, laying out the red carpet, laying out the band. I mean, he's embarrassed her, and frankly, I can see why she wanted to invite him. I think there's real parallels you can draw between the immigration policies and the hostile environment of the Conservative Party and Trump's immigration policy. So I'm not surprised she's laying out the red carpet. I think they share a lot in common, and I'm embarrassed at the way our government is conducting themselves.
Claire, because I know, well, we just contradicted ourselves, because one minute he's like, we're not divisive over in this country, and he's a foreign bigot coming over here and we should keep him out. And the next minute, he's just the same as Theresa May, and she's doing exactly the same policies. I mean, which is it? I mean, the thing I feel queasy about, I'm all for protesting and so on. I've done enough of it in my time. I just feel, because I do actually think that if I'm going to do it, I don't want to just do it to just kind of go, I don't like that president. I mean, he's a democratically elected president. I think it's perfectly appropriate.
I think there's a lot of nuance, more than I don't like this president. I think the Muslim ban is discriminating across communities. I think normalising misogyny in the White House is unacceptable. I think kids in cages are unacceptable. I think the hostile environment of detention and Yarl's Wood in the UK is unacceptable. It's not we don't like him. It's his politics is unacceptable. His policies are divisive and dangerous, and we stand up.
What I'd say is that I understand that you are anti-racist, that you want to defend people against hostile immigration policies. I agree. I think it becomes a cheap thing. I always make the point, if I want to get a cheer, any public meeting, I just have to say, I hate Donald Trump, and everybody cheers regardless, right?
There's a reason for that,
but Yarl's Wood, most people don't know what it is. I prefer to concentrate on the politics that are happening here that are causing problems. And I think that the problem with your exceptional treatment of Trump is there's been, I think, 12 American presidents who've been here. Obama was diplomatic, wonderfully kind of erudite in comparison with Trump, and yet he actually conducted more wars, killed more people, and actually were responsible. So I'm simply saying that Trump has been treated as though he's an exceptionally evil guy.
It goes well beyond Trump. It goes well beyond
Trump. Why would you stop Donald Trump, taking Claire's points? I mean, there have been many leaders that have come to this country who have had state visits, who have arguably committed far worse crimes in history, and yet you're making all this fuss about Donald Trump.
And far worse crimes in the present time. I mean, the Saudi Arabia regime, I would like to see people on the streets as well about their human rights abuses.
But banning them coming?
We shouldn't stop with Donald Trump. He's at the forefront of a lurch to the right, the far right, a politics of division and hate. And I think I would like to see, what I hope is people on the streets today who protest against Trump realise that actually there's a lot more we can be doing to be on the streets and put in opposition to other leaders.
An enormous amount of Americans are around that baby balloon. They've made an effort. They're over on holiday and they kind of love it. Now, they'll be the Americans who travel. Of course, Theresa May has to see Donald Trump.
I mean, that's the point we're talking about, not the protest. I mean, it is about whether he should still be able to come here.
Yeah,
this idea of banning him or not having state visit, is that credible?
No, of course he has to come. She has to deal with him. It's how you handle him. The state visit was clearly wrong. We can see today with the protest that you could have put him in a carriage up and down the Mall. It wouldn't matter how loudly the band played, you would have still heard the protesters.
Good.
And I think the reason he gets particular vitriol is he almost asks for it. He goes out of his way. He was promoting British fascists. He keeps blundering into British politics. The attacks on Sadiq Khan are utterly appalling. Just leave Brexit to one side. But George W. Bush, there was a huge protest when he came after the Iraq War. I've seen it in recent weeks.
How many people marched against the Iraq War?
Yeah, well, there was a million. It was much bigger. But I've seen protests recently against Netanyahu, Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia, Erdogan from Turkey. But I think it's not a special relationship, but there are bonds and ties with many Britons and America because of divided by a common language, if you like, but it's there.
The concern is that we overstate the crimes of Trump. I mean, there's enough criticism that one can... I think you can. I think people are too easily to throw around words like, near fascist and alt-right and all
Claire,
these kind of things.
Claire, he's got kids in cages. I don't think anyone is overstating the crimes of Trump. I think we're understating the crimes of Trump.
There are arguments about there are
belittle
arguments
his
about
politics of hate?
No, I think there are arguments about his immigration policies and the way he's handled them. There's been huge amounts of problems about immigration throughout the world. I think there's a danger of a kind of juvenile, immature approach to politics that reduces it to a kind of sloganeering. And I don't think that helps.
Claire, at the same time, we mustn't forget he's backed by the Ku Klux Klan, white nationalists in the US, and we mustn't normalise his hate and to try and reduce it and put it to one side. He's not a normal leader.
I do not think that an elected politician, regardless of whether I agree with his politics or not, can be kind of damned by the people who support him on that basis. There's all sorts of people, I mean, we don't need to go through it. They've tried to do that to Corbyn. They've tried to say, look at who supports Corbyn. There's these people who supported the IRA support him and so on. That's kind of guilt by association.
No,
I'm just making that point.
And I think that...
What do you say to that point? Because there have been attempts, rightly or wrongly, to say that is Jeremy Corbyn a friend of Hamas? Was he a supporter of the IRA? Was that fair or unfair?
I think talking about the idea of politics looking juvenile to oppose someone like Trump is an embarrassing stance to have. I think it's dangerous to belittle a man who is endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan, frankly. And I think that Jeremy Corbyn, as the future Prime Minister of this country, will do what Theresa May should be doing, which is using our special relationship to tell Trump that we do not agree with his immigration policies that put kids in cages, that divide communities.
And Theresa May, I think, did say that in the broadest possible terms about that policy of putting children of illegal immigrants in cages. What more do you want her to do, and what more do you think your protest can achieve?
I think Theresa May should stand down. That's what I'd like her to do. I think she's making a shambles of Brexit. I think she's embarrassing this country. And in regards to Trump, I do not think she should be rolling out the red carpet. I do not think he should be having tea with the Queen. I do not think we should have barons marching up and down the street celebrating a fascist, very frankly.
No, you're calling him a fascist now. This is where I get nervous. He's not a fascist.
Well, let's look at his policies. He divides communities by putting kids in cages. He discriminates entire communities.
Is that right? But what else makes him a fascist in your view?
A fascist? Think of the political terminology and history of fascism.
Look at his economic policies. He gives tax cuts to the corporations. So we're talking about the richest people get richer, the poorest people get poorer. He wants what it is. It's about pushing down people in poverty.
But
it's about disempowering people.
The people who voted for him still believe in him. I do think democracy matters.
His authoritarian nationalism is fascistic.
I don't agree with it.
I wouldn't call him a fascist, but he's authoritarian nationalism.
I think we're in very serious danger here.
Very dangerous.
I think it's very serious danger here.
The danger of apologising for
one of the things that fascism is associated with is disregarding democracy. And one of the things that we have to show some respect for, because we've just criticised Trump for being so undiplomatic, is the way you have an elected, popular president voted for by millions of people, often the people that you are on the side of, and they have not as yet deserted him. We as a democracy have to show some respect for their democratic right to vote.
Do you agree he's popular with his base, even now?
He certainly is his base. We mustn't forget he lost he lost by 3 million votes to Hillary Clinton, but he won on the Electoral College. He won under their system. The base, but his numbers are not as great as he pretends. And because somebody is elected, I agree. I'll show respect for the office of the President of the United States when Trump shows respect for the office of the President of the United States, which he doesn't.
Well, we've criticised him for being anti-diplomatic, and then we're saying, why would you put the red carpet out? Because you always put the red carpet out when a visiting.
No, you can't.
If you're going to do it, right?
He's got the most reckless US president. He's ripped up the climate agreement. I mean, climate change is going to kill millions. It kills millions at the moment, predominantly global south countries. And he's shown complete disregard. One of the biggest polluters in the world, the US, has just ripped up the climate accord. Well, not just, but... And this reckless behaviour is endangering everyone.
So, would you like to do a trade deal with the US?
I think if we do a trade deal with the US, it needs to be on our terms as much as on their terms. And that means we do not deregulate our standards on food and chemical regulations, our environmental regulations, or our workers' rights. And we do not put our NHS on the table. Absolutely not.
So we do a deal on our terms, not on his terms, and that's what popular sovereignty is. That's what the sovereign state means.
But Kurt, it's not like you should do a deal, is he?
No,
now, if he thinks
but I'm
that
saying
he's not going to be able to...
You're talking about what, in fact, many people want us to start conducting our trade deals like.
Yeah,
it's quite tricky, right? We've just worked it out. I think that's why people voted Brexit, because they want a sovereign decision to say we do it on our terms. All I'm saying is, him saying we do it on my terms is no different than the EU saying you do it on our terms. That's the whole point.
We do it on our terms now, but in concert with our neighbours, our partners. And trying to do a deal on your own when you're very much the junior inferior partner will come up with an inferior deal. If we're negotiating with the other 27, you've got 500 million people, huge trading bloc.
But you're restricted in terms of that our terms point that you very rightly emphasised.
We will get a better deal.
Right, we're going to let Sakina go back on a march, protesting, I think.
Please join me 2 p.m. on the corner of Great Portland Street or 5 p.m. at Trafalgar Square.
Well done.
In all seriousness, I've been disappointed.
Other marches are available.
All right, so I was disappointed with the balloon. It's a bit small.
It is actually smaller than we thought it was going to be.
Let's get another one up. Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Thank you for coming in. And guess what? It's back to the white paper Wheel of Fortune. I think they're enjoying this more than the rest of it. Right, go ahead, press that red button.
It's like magic.
Oh. That catchy title, Framework for Mobility. And actually, as the presenter, I should get the title right. It is the white paper wheel of jargon. I can actually read, third time lucky. So, Framework for Mobility. This is linked to immigration and the immigration policy post-Brexit. Joel, you're smiling. Is this one of your favourites?
Yeah, hi there. So it says this on. So I get my earpiece going a little bit. It says on page 32 that there will be this framework for mobility, and this means that for short-term visits.